Hello and welcome to Team Franco Bodybuilding Podcast. Hoping you guys are doing fantastic out there, getting it done, both in and out of the gym. All right, so we're moving on to Bodybuilding for Dummies, Part 2, the diet. And yes, I'm going to be covering the basics. And although these basics can be applied to the most advanced people, for those who possibly are stuck, or those that want to revisit a fat loss phase or compete again. But I would imagine most of you guys are out there maybe competed once or twice or thinking about competing. And really my goal for any podcast that I put out there is to give you guidance, anecdotal guidance of me coaching for 25 to 30 years of both lifestyle clients, competitors, all sorts of levels. So really, that is my focus, and I'm going to continue with that for as long as I like and as long as I get positive feedback from you guys. And speaking of that, I do appreciate it. I love getting the small emails, the notes on Instagram, the tags, all good stuff. That's my goal. It's just put as much out there. You guys decide, and hoping I can give you some guidance and debunk a lot of the bullshit. It's point blank. A lot of the silliness that's still going on, unfortunately. So let's talk about the diet and some of the basics. But before I get involved on what I can tell you what to do, it's sometimes easier to tell you, or what I observe, why most people fail. And the number one reason is lack of discipline. I think that's what it comes down to, where discipline matters the most, right? Discipline builds, I think, starts before motivation. You could be motivated as all get out. I want to compete. But if you do not display that discipline day in and day out to build up that momentum, you're going to be spinning your wheels. And one of the main things that gets in the way of discipline is our happiness, where quite often as human beings, creatures of habit, we get happy and we do things that make us happy in the moment, which is cool. I dig it. But if you are not taking steps to make yourself happy in the moment to reach your goal, or better yet, when you look back at the past week, and if you're not happy with the discipline towards your diet, well, then you're not happy. So that's why some sacrifice needs to be done. And that's why, at the same time, some excitement needs to be there to see and to challenge yourself. And with that discipline and getting excited over the possibilities of losing body fat to compete and step on stage one day, that needs to be reminded. That needs to be replayed in your head instead of having the thought, oh, I can't have pizza anymore. Oh, my friends are going out for drinks. Oh, there's a sale on chocolate chip cookies, whatever. You pick your poison. That is something that you need to overcome. And a lot of times when people don't have that discipline, it's because they're taught wrong. They may have a shitty coach or what they see online, and they got all this information coming in. You really want to make your discipline achievable and put yourself in the most optimal position so you can keep the discipline of the diet day in and day out. Now, yeah, you can have mess ups and whatnot, and that's where a good coach can help you guide through. But you need to put yourself in an achievable position and put yourself in a situation that discipline can be happening and trusting the process can be happening. And again, that's where coaching can really play a big role on guiding you when it comes to this. Now, yes, there are some people that can flip the switch. Boop, discipline's right on. I have clients like that. They come off their off season, they're 20, 25 pounds overweight from the last prep, whatever, and we flip the switch. And then there are others that it's more like a dimmer. It's a slow transition, and that's equally fine. As long as you give yourself plenty of time, once the discipline and the connection of the diet comes in, you'll be good to go. Now, why do I say you want to give yourself discipline that's achievable? Make the surroundings easier, right? And that's where I try to debunk a lot of the bodybuilding myths, because it is calories in, calories out. I'm not telling you to eat special foods. I'm not telling you that you can't eat at night. You shouldn't be focusing on, certain supplements or, eating a certain way, because all that is ridiculous. It really is. Always, I would say 95% of us, where if you are eating a little bit less day in and day out of your maintenance of what you would figure out before you start, you're going to start losing body fat appropriately. And that is really it. I mean, I could hit shut off, pause, close it out. That is the Bodybuilding for Dummies diet, eating a little bit less. But you expand it out. How can we consistently eat less? Is that you want to put your discipline in action, but make it achievable and something that you can stick with day in and day out. And for me, I'll eat the same thing. Basically, it makes it easier, less thinking, less stress. And I've learned that, I like to eat a little bit more at night. So I will allot 300 to 500 calories, believe it or not, past 8 o'clock, because, all right, it helps me sleep. And then I'm not getting up wanting to snack. So I shift my calories. So I focus on things that make it easier for me. And others can be like fasting. Maybe they don't work out in the morning, so they can basically have their first meal at 12 noon, even though that they're up at 6 a.m. And that's fine, because it's still the calories that you're eating in your waking window that matters the most. So a lot of stuff is bullshit out there. And if you can build up the consistency and the discipline of eating basically the same amount of calories, whether if it's your flexible dieting, which I'm all for, whether it's the same meals, it doesn't matter. You want to build up that momentum, so then you can build up the progress as far as learning how your body handles the particular diet. That's it, guys. Really, it's not much more than that. Now, yes, there are a variety of diets out there. And again, clients of mine will be, well, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And I will prescribe them macros. And I'm like, yeah, sure you can. I mean, you can pick whatever fruits, whatever vegetables, whatever protein foods. As long as you're coming close to the suggested macros, I'm cool with it. I'm not going to be so hard-headed like, no, you got to stick carnivore or keto or whatever. Most of it's nonsense. And the reason why all these diets have come out over the years is that, it gives you a little bit more structure instead of the freedom of eating whatever kind of foods you want. And that's usually the downside of if it fits your macros, because then people feel lost. Now, I have clients that love it. It's a game to them, where they'll try different things every few days and they're still nailing the diet. And that goes to my first point, is that you want to put yourself in a situation that you can have the discipline. So it really comes down to consistency day in and day out. Now, there are going to be sticking points. That's inevitable, right? You can follow the same caloric distribution for a few weeks, have great progress. There's a half a pound to a pound a week, and then it's going to stop. Well, here is where, again, coaching can come into play, because so often newbies that are prepping will then panic and then they'll do other things and be a little bit too drastic, where they'll cut the calories by a lot, 400 or 500 calories per day, and they're kind of like low to begin with, and then you fall into the whole metabolic adaptation crash. Add more cardio. I mean, I've talked about this a number of times. I'm not going to get too deep in it, but then they worry, and it's a mess. Small changes the better, and I think less frequent changes the better. And that is why giving yourself more than enough time is one of the keys when it comes to dieting for, losing body fat, and especially for a physique competition. So therefore, if you hit a sticking point, you don't have to do anything too drastic. You are following the plan. All right, I hit a sticking point. Let's lower a little bit. Let's maybe add a little bit more cardio, give it another week or two, and then reevaluate. Now, again, there are so many other variables into this, guys. If you're a newbie with less than a few years of weight training, you may not be losing body weight as fast because you're gaining muscle still. So therefore, that's why pictures are key, where it's body composition that matters the most. It's what you see in the mirror that matters the most. Instead of thinking, oh shit, I got to get down to 110 pounds because that's what the last figure pro person at the battle for the belt weighed. Whatever. No, that's not true. Again, judges, they don't care what your body fat is. They don't know what it is. They don't know what you weigh. Maybe they have an idea of your height depending on the class that you come out walking out in. But other than that, it's a visual. So that's why giving yourself more time is really optimal. So therefore, you don't have to do anything too drastic, especially if you are a newbie, because your body is gaining muscle tissue at the same time. Now, I'm not saying it's all, roses and, lavender or gardens or whatever, sweetness. It is a grind. It really is. But if you can embrace the balance and flexibility of life and give yourself the opportunity to get through these plateaus and get excited over the discipline that you set up for yourself that you can stick with, you're going to get there. Now, there's going to be times that it does suck. That is inevitable. But it doesn't have to suck all the time if you have the right mindset. And I think that's where a lot of people get shy off. They'll start their prep. Then they hit a bump in the road and they're like, yeah, this is not for me. Well, maybe it isn't for you. But if you really want it, yeah, you got to battle through. You got to put up a fight for yourself and remind yourself, yeah, my friends are going out tonight. I know I can go out with them and drink some Diet Cokes, but do I really want to? I always say, yeah, go out, drink a Diet Cokes, or if you want a light beer, make it fit your macros. Don't change your lifestyle. But then people fall into it nah, never mind. I don't think competing's for me. Well, they're doing what's happy for them in the moment, but not happy for the goal. And that's what, again, going back to what I said initially, you want to be happy for the goal. You want to do whatever it takes, right? You want to be responsible and do whatever it takes and keep your lifestyle the same. So therefore, you're not living in a box during your prep. I find that happen a lot. And I preached upon that balance and flexibility because it's, eventually you want to make this a positive lifestyle. So when you come off of your show, you are basically, still in a good spot where you don't gain as much weight back. You're in striking distance. You've heard me talk about that before. If you want to compete again, you're healthier. You're inspiration to those around you. And that's why you accomplishing a good diet, you accomplishing the consistency, the discipline, has so many more benefits than just stepping on stage. It becomes contagious to the people around you. And that, to me, that's a beautiful thing. So really, it comes down to consistency. Calories in, calories out. I mean, there's so many, and what I would suggest, if you're a real newbie, what you got to do, without going into details, because my audience, I don't know what your caloric intake, your body weight is, how long you've been weight training. But if you are literally just listening to this, just to get an idea what you're supposed to do for the first step, you need to track your diet, I would say, for 5 to 7 days. At least your caloric intake, and figure out what your average is. And if your average is at 2,000 calories, well, that's your maintenance for holding that particular body weight. And then I would just drop the caloric intake by 250 calories. Add in a little bit more activity. Obviously, continue to weight train hard, doing everything right. And then see how it treats you for another 2 weeks, as long as you're sticking to it. Because if you're not sticking to it, you got to start over, right? I mean, I don't have many clients like this, but they're always asking for changes to their diet, but they're not sticking to it. I can't, I'm like, well, it looks good. You're doing kind of doing it, but no changes because obviously you got to stick to the original numbers, which would put you, I think, in a slight deficit, and then we can learn and see how it treats you. So that's the give and take of a coach-client relationship. I can only learn, you can only learn with the consistency. And instead of me telling you what foods to eat or not to eat, or how to eat or when to eat, which is not necessary, you want to make it as easy as possible for you to stick with, to put you in that position for that discipline. Then you can learn. Then you can gather the data as far as what is the next step. Reducing calories a little bit. Yeah, I mean that's bodybuilding diet for dummies 101, just real basics. And it's just not the foods itself. It's the mental attitude, I believe, being ready for it, getting excited to actually take on this goal. And it doesn't matter if you're 100 pounds overweight or 10 pounds overweight. It's still the same mentality of like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to put myself in the best possible position to chip away so I can build up that consistency day in and day out. Now, if it takes you a few weeks to get into the groove, that's fine. As long as you are trying harder a little bit every day, doesn't mean you're a failure. If you start a diet, if I were to give you macros and after a week you're not nailing it, I'm not going to come down on you. No. Everyone has different fingerprints. Everyone's going to have different paths, different challenges. If it's work, career, family, school, relationship, whatever. I understand. Some people can nail it in 3 days. Some people may need 3 months, and that's acceptable. And that's why you can't be too hard on yourself. As long as you're honest with yourself and that you're putting the effort in to get started, that's all that matters. And some of my best clients, as far as competing on stage, it did take them a couple months to get into the groove, to get into the rhythm, to start the new habit day in and day out. And then once you hit that mark, you don't even have to look back. It's just repetition that's positive, that you're just doing what is necessary in the moment, doing what makes you happy in the moment. And when you look back at it, you are even happier in the moment. So that is the way to set up your diet for success. The most easiest way, and it's more psychological than I think physical and actually eating food. I mean, I can go into greater detail, like people ask me about cheat meals and all that stuff, but no, starting a diet with the consistency is the bottom line. And I think once you can do that, then you can focus and continue to reach your goals. So I'm going to sign off. Hopefully this has been helpful. And if you guys have any questions or concerns, hit me up, fitfranco@verizon.net. Interested in coaching, you can check out all my socials, teamfrancobodybuilding.com, and I would love to hear from you. Take care.